And we are live, and I am here with a very talented artist, Simon Carr. Uh, First question for you, Simon. Why on earth are you in Slovakia?
Well, I'm in Slovakia because, well, there's a few reasons. The first one is my wife's Slovak,
Fair enough.
and the second reason is in 2020 I lost my job, my full-time job as a graphic designer, and I'd always want to be a full-time illustrator. So I decided to make the leap and do that without thinking about it too much. Otherwise, if I did, I probably wouldn't have done it. At the time, I was living in Vancouver, BC, Canada, and Vancouver is a very expensive place. And freelance illustration, in the main, is okay paid, but it's better to maybe move somewhere else that isn't quite as expensive. And Slovakia is quite a bit cheaper to live. So, and I pretty much run the road in Vancouver. I wanted to go somewhere else. So yeah, that's why I'm in Slovakia now.
Okay. And sorry, I would love to travel more, but I'm American, and I don't get the vacation I need.
Well, you guys have like do you guys like have like 3.5 hours off a year or something, right?
Well, I'm fortunate. I work for a German company, and I've been
Ah,
there over 20 years, so I now have 30 days vacation. So
well, there you go. There
I
you
get
go.
some vacation, but now I'm going to Comic Cons with all my vacation, so I still don't travel other than in the U.S. But what is the weather like in Slovakia? Is it cold? Is it warm? Is it yes, all the above, depending on season?
Pretty much depending on the season. It's I guess kind of moderate, temperate. Interior BC is similar. In the winter, we get a fair amount of snow. In the summer, we get 30, 35-degree temperatures.
Yep.
Um, it doesn't rain as much here, which I really like. That's one of the things that when I lived in Vancouver, there's a lot of rain,
Yeah.
and that can really get to you, even if rain doesn't really bother you. So I kind of like that, and there's a lot of beautiful countryside here. So yeah,
Okay. And EL, he is here. He's missed the last couple, but we'll let him show up because we like EL. So are you ready for a silly question?
of course.
Okay. If you were transported back to the 1500s and were the Pope's personal artist, would you be excommunicated or worse?
I expect so. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, pretty much no doubt about that. Yeah.
I was looking at your website and the talking to the boss image that you have.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see you drawing that for the Pope. If you don't know what I'm looking at, you need to go to his website after the show, not now, after a show. Scar Industries, SCARR Industries.com,
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah.
Look at this. I prepped for this. But okay, what mediums do you work in? Is it all computer or do you do traditional or what?
I started off in traditional. I started off mainly in pencil, and then gouache, and then I moved to acrylics, and then it was acrylics mixed media, a bit like Drew Struzan, the movie poster artist. He does like an acrylic airbrush with some pencil crayon on the top of that. I did that for a while. Then I moved to oils, and now I'm basically entirely digital.
Do you have a favorite?
I like oils. I like the um, I like the fact with oils you can change your mind, and you can do a lot. You can do pretty much anything in oils, um, and you don't have to be super fast because the slow drying time with oils.
Yep.
You can go over things. You can go back over things. Whereas something like watercolor, um, most of the time you have to pretty much get it right first off. So I would say oils is pretty forgiving, and then obviously the digital medium is extremely forgiving. I do enjoy working digitally, so
Yeah. So, let's see. What themes and concepts do you generally, if you like to explore when you do your art?
I like the darker side of stuff, obviously,
Yep.
as you noticed.
Hence excommunication. Yeah.
Yep, yep. Sci-fi and fantasy art's basically the stuff that I like to do. Creepy stuff, foreboding imagery. I really quite like doing that. Sort of the moment before something's about to happen. I find
Yep.
that's pretty engaging. Menace. I like revenge stuff. Yeah, I guess yeah, that's sort of the way that I'm slanted. If I watch a movie per se, I generally side with the bad guy, the major villain. I find them far more interesting than the heroes.
So your work is not going to show up on a romantic comedy.
No, I very much doubt it will, honestly.
So what percentage of your work is commissions versus what percent is just you painting what you want to paint or drawing?
Commissions. Ooh, let's see. It's probably 70-30, 80-20, something in that range. Yeah, because I have to live. So
Yeah. So you stay busy then, I'm guessing.
I stay as busy as possible, and when I don't have a professional commission to work on, then I'm working to push the envelope in my art and improve and or come up with new folio pieces. Just yeah, always trying to get better, always trying to come up with something bigger, better, something I haven't done before. Yeah.
Okay, well then here's another silly question for you.
Here we go.
If you were commissioned to draw a scene on the side of a 50-story building, what would you choose and why?
Oh God. That's a good one. The first thing that comes to my mind is meeting with the boss. Actually, strangely enough, because it's a nice vertical format, and I think that would stop a fair amount of people in the street while they're looking at that. What the hell is that?
That's awesome. That I didn't even think of that, but yeah, that would be awesome. I can think of any number of businesses that deserves to be on their building.
Absolutely.
So let's see. Okay, here's the one that I came up with last night. I said might be the most ridiculous question I've come up with.
Okay.
So you are forced to change artistic careers, and you have your choice of becoming a potter or a topiary artist. Which one do you choose and why?
First off, what's a topiary artist? What's that?
The people who trim bushes into the shapes of animals or other objects.
Right. That's a difficult choice.
This is what happens when Ro's not here.
I don't know. Actually, probably the topiary artist. Honestly, I think that would be amusing.
Okay, so you told me, I think before we jumped on live, that you took the jump. EO, I did not ban you. That you took the jump from graphic artist to indie author or indie artist. What has the challenge has been like to do that?
It's been hard. Yeah, it's not an easy road. There's no question about that. I think the standout thing is that you don't have that regular paycheck.
Yep.
And if you don't work, you don't have any money coming in unless you have some passive income stuff like other stuff set up.
Mm-hmm.
There's no days off sick. There's no holiday pay. And there's no medical. That's the first thing. It's just getting used to money. Finding work can be challenging. And you always have to kind of like spend time, a portion of your time looking for work and looking for new clients. And part of that is improving your work and improving your portfolio overall, looking at what clients are currently commissioning and seeing where you fit in and how you could fit in, approaching targets with a targeted mindset rather than just, oh, they kind of do what I want, I'll send them something. I think that's pretty important. What else can I tell you? Yeah, it's you can't really sort of, I mean, obviously you have to take some time off mentally.
Yep.
But it's not like when a day job, if you're not feeling that great that day, you just like coast through, because sometimes you'll have a commission that you need to get done that day or the day after. You may have to work late, you may have to work through the night to get the commission. So I'd say becoming a freelance illustrator is not just about doing the pictures. It's a full-time, it's a business.
Yeah.
And so with that, you're doing everything yourself. You're looking for work, you're promoting yourself, you're writing the emails, you're doing the bookkeeping, you're coming up with the ideas, and you're managing clients. So I actually enjoy that because I feel like I have way more control than if I, like beforehand when I was going to a full-time job and I was just mainly just a cog in the massive machine, as it were.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, yeah, those are the things that took a bit of getting used to, for sure.
Okay, and EL has been on a spree here. So what is your lead time?
My lead time on commissions, generally about 6 weeks. If I can have more than that, great. But if it's less time than that, fine. It can be 3 weeks to get something as good as possible. If it's before that, then it's possible, but can be a bit of a rush, depending on how quickly people make decisions, if you know what I mean.
Yep. I have a couple different artists I've worked with, and I told the one guy, I'm like, if you rush an artist, you get rushed art. And who wants that? So I very much am a hands-off, like you do you, tell me when you're done sort of thing. Do you find most people are like that, or are most people like, I need it Tuesday?
There's two camps, basically. There's the people who are prepared and will give you more than enough time. And there's the people that will contact you a week before they need it because they have no idea how long things take.
Right.
Generally, that's down to inexperience. And they'll email me like, oh, I need this done next week. What's your rate? I don't even know what the cover's about. I don't know what the format is. I know nothing about the cover. A week is really tight to come up with something that's something that's going to stand the test of time.
Right.
You're going to be proud to show, basically. So yeah, that's basically how that goes.
So delving in horrible clients, is it worse to have someone like that, or is someone who just won't make up their mind what they want? Sort of, I don't know. Can you make this better?
Can you push the awesome button? Yeah. I've had quite a few of those throughout my entire career as a creative. The thing is that when I work with a client, I have a contract set up, and when it comes to the final piece, there's a certain amount of changes that you can make, and that's factored into the contract price. And after that, it's an hourly rate. And so I found myself that if you put that in place, then people become a lot more organized a lot more quickly.
Yep.
Because it's costing them money. It's not just, oh, we're just going to work on this indefinitely. It's not costing me any more money.
Right.
It's like, well, that's great, but I have to put food on the table. So you put this in place, and it sort of heads that off at the pass, as it were.
Yeah.
Actually, I like clients that have a basic idea of when they want it done. I don't like projects to go on too long because you lose the momentum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, EL here is researching you.
Okay.
Let's see what he wants to know. What is your favorite palette?
My favorite palette? Ooh, I like the reds, oranges, and blacks and blues. That's probably my favorite palette, my go-to palette. But it really depends on what's going to be in the picture and what's going to be appropriate for the picture, and setting, the time of day, what lighting situation it is, who the characters are, what the overarching feeling of the illustration needs to be for that particular project.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm doing stuff for me, then it usually veers in that direction.
Yeah. And something that all authors would want to know: commercial rights.
Commercial rights. Is there a different process for getting commercial rights? Well, commercial rights, that's fine, but you have to the author or the client will have to pay a bit extra for all of the commercial rights, because if I hand over all the commercial rights, then once the project is finished, there's no more revenue involved for me.
Right.
And I even have to sometimes ask if I can put the image on my website if I want to do that, or put it onto my social media if I want to. So there has to be some sort of compensation for that. One party can't have everything, as it were.
Right. And let's see. EL is just, this is why he gets banned. He does too many, and YouTube says he's a bot and kicks him off.
Do I wait for inspiration, or do you work to spec? I don't wait for inspiration. I don't believe in inspiration. I think it's great to watch a movie, or let me rephrase that. I do believe in inspiration, but I don't wait for it. Like I'll watch a movie, or I'll listen to a piece of music, or a TV show, or read a book, or whatever it is, and I might be inspired to do something, or look at some other people's work. I don't wait for it. I'm working all the time, because this is what gets me out of bed in the morning. This is what I love to do. So even on a bad day, it's still a good day. And so I don't wait for inspiration. I just keep plowing through, because I could be on a day where I'm not inspired, and I could just be casually going through stuff, and I could come up with one of the best ideas that I'd come up with for quite some time. So, yeah.
So I have a question. If you were given the opportunity to go back to being a graphic artist and having a steady income, would you do it, or would you want to stay the way you are now?
It's really tempting to go back to having a steady income. For me, it's kind of like that movie, The Matrix. Would you want to go back? Would you not have taken that blue pill? I can't remember which color pill.
Right.
And be completely ignorant, or would you rather be in the Matrix and know exactly what's going on? No, I don't think I would, honestly. It would be nice to have a more regular income, and to be able to plan a bit more. But I know that the more that I'm doing what I'm doing, the more that's probably going to come into play.
And EL, going back to your palette of burning.
Sure, we can go with that, EL. No problem.
Let's see. And what is your last commission, and where can we see it?
My last commission. Oh God, what was it? Well, there's a few commissions that I've created recently that I can't really talk about because they're NDA.
Yep.
Let's see. Let me quickly go to my website. Oh God. Oh, we can talk about the Will White, the engineer cover that I did. And that was fairly.
Will White. Nice.
Yeah, I'm working with Will White at the moment.
Excellent.
So, yeah, I've done two covers that are out right now: the Captain and the Engineer.
Mm-hmm.
And the Engineer was a very challenging illustration to get right, mainly because there's a lot of things going on. And also, it had to have a retro. There was a lot of mech on there, and they had to be retro looking. So not only did I have to do mech, which I haven't done a ton of, but I also had to make it look retro as well, and everything had to fit together. So that was really challenging, um, but I did enjoy it. Um, what else can I tell you? Uh, Initially, the cover was going to be set in Mel's lab, the main character in her lab, with lots of robots flying around and bits and bobs. But eventually, we decided to go on a hangar idea because it was a little too cluttered. And so for the look of that, I went for a combination of Tron and Star Wars because I kind of like the look of both those properties, I guess.
Awesome. Love Tron.
Yeah, so do I. I mean, I think we're similar age. We've probably
Yep.
seen similar things,
Yep.
and those similar things have had an impression on both of us, I guess. I mean, I saw Star Wars on my 8th birthday, right, the first Star Wars movie, and I don't know. I was messing around with my friends in the cinema, and there was the credits came on, and then that ship came overhead,
Yeah.
and I was messing around. I just looked over. Oh, yeah, it's a ship, and the ship just kept going and going and going and going, and I was like, and all my friends just stopped talking. We were just like, wow.
And I was going to say, I was 7 when I saw it. So, yeah.
Yeah. So to me, that was just intense.
Let's see. So, EL, I'm always curious about this because he said he commissioned 3 covers, and in each case he had to provide a short story to the artist to get a feel for the work. Do you do this also? Is this
Yeah.
Carr?
I've had to. I've read short stories and descriptions from art authors. I've had a couple of authors that wanted me to read their entire books, um, which is okay, but not something I would do for everybody because the amount of time it would take
Right.
to just arrive at some sort of idea. If I have a description of what the story is about, brief synopsis, and possibly some story points that the author would like to promote, and I have an understanding who the characters are, that's pretty much all I need, as well as maybe some visual cues that the author likes or had in mind when they were thinking of getting the cover done.
Okay. Bear with me just a minute here.
Sure.
I'm going to embrace technology, which is always scary.
There, yeah.
Okay, tell me, is that correct? What's on the bottom of the screen? Scarindustries.com?
Yep, that's it.
Okay, should have done this from the beginning, but there we go. Now we can go back to talking. Let's see. Yeah, same thing. I was thinking. I was like, I've heard people like, yeah, I'll just get them to read my book and then do the artwork. I'm like, that's a lot. Are you paying them to read the book, or you expect them to just do this for extra, for funsies?
I think some people assume that you're going to be as excited about their project as they are. And, well, I'm sure it is exciting, but there's a case of, how much time is that going to take?
Right.
And, if that was something I had to do for everybody, that would have to be factored into, the budget because it's time. Yeah.
Especially, I think, newer artists who are like, this is going to be the next great thing and everyone's going to want it. So, of course, you want to read it before you, And then after a while, you get a few scars, pun intended. And then you sort of, okay, yeah, let's be real.
Yeah. Let's speed this up a little bit. Yeah.
Okay. What is your favorite piece of art you've created and why?
Wow. I think one of my favorite pieces of work that I've done is a personal piece. No, there's a couple actually. One personal piece and one commission piece. So the personal piece is called The Return. It's on my website. let's see, it is right at the bottom on the left, if you want to have a look at that. And this is about a character that I developed. I developed a storyline behind. Essentially, the character is going back for revenge on his family after he was exiled as a boy. So he gets exiled as a boy from the palace. He was a prince. He gets dumped in a forest by himself. He has a couple of the king's friends in animal form that help him, as well as an older mentor, wizard. Over the course of 20 to 25 years, he acquires a lot of magical skills and abilities. And then he goes back after being twisted by hate and revenge and anger. He goes back for revenge on the kingdom and the palace. So that is him just taking a breath before he goes into the main palace or the main kingdom area.
Yep.
Okay, so carry on.
Sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's fine. Go ahead.
I'm just going to say, I was looking at your site, and I think my favorite piece, just because it's unusual, is, let's see, the Call of the Rift.
Oh, yeah.
The guy underwater with the kelp forest. Very big fan of that, by the way.
Yeah, I'm glad you like. That's actually a woman, but I'm glad you like it.
Oh yeah. Yes, it is. Never mind. But
so the second one is probably I do like that one. The second one is the character sitting in the chair with the string between his hands and the cloud around his head.
Mm-hmm.
That was for a book cover called King versus Kings. I just like the foreboding and somewhat evil, menacing vibe to that one, I guess.
So we talked before we came live. You've traveled and lived in many different places. Does that affect your art?
Well, I think because I've experienced a lot of things, I can throw those things into my art subconsciously, without really thinking about it, I guess. Yeah. I can't think of anything in particular as an example. I'm just trying to think if there's anything, but nothing's coming to mind. So
I mean, I can tell you from my artist I use for most of my covers, he lives in Poland now, and okay. I had one. I was like, I want a woman all in white standing on top of a castle with the crenellations, and I'm like, and I'm not going to tell you anything about the castles because 10 times more than I do because I'm American and we have nothing that old. And
true. That's another great thing about Slovakia. We have more castles per capita than I think any other country in the world.
Nice.
Like there's a really big castle ruin about a 20-minute drive from here. There's so many castles here. It's crazy. And of course I love all that stuff. So
yeah.
So, and Poland isn't actually that far away from where I am, actually. So.
And EL is back at it. Do you work from life or from your mind? I.e., do you use models?
Do I use models? So when I'm coming up with ideas, that's generally all from my mind. I may look through things for inspiration, but a lot of things that I come up with are things that I just come up with myself. When it comes to the technical aspect of creating the covers, I do use photography as reference, which I will source either online or I generally always take my own reference photographs. And for models, it's either me or my wife. It's nothing crazy, nothing fancy. I'm not hiring, fantastic models or anything. It's about as basic as it gets.
Okay. Let's see. I had something. Social media.
Yeah.
Do you love it? Do you hate it? And I know that you have to do it because you have to, right?
You do. At the moment, I'm taking a little bit of a break from it because I was busy, and I just didn't have time to dedicate, the 3-4 hours a week to it. I think
That's always
social
the best
media.
excuse.
Yeah, exactly. I think social media is different for different people.
Hmm.
For me, being the age that I am, social media I can see that it's important, but it's not something that I'm, jumping up for joy about, honestly. It's good to see what other people, my peers are working on, and it's good to see what my friends are doing and keeping up with them. Um, but that's about it, really. Um, how do you find social media?
Well, being of a certain age, I talk to younger people. And they're like, it's easy. Just once a day, get on there and say something about yourself. And I just look at them like, what do people want to know about me daily? I mean, I'm not that interesting. And they're
Yeah,
like, if you have interesting food, take a picture. I'm like, I'm not taking a picture of my plate. No, I mock everyone who does that. Um,
yeah,
I,
yeah,
I don't understand. But I mean, I like you. I know it's important, and I struggle, and so my posts tend to be, "Thank you very much for that very kind thing." I mean, it's just, I mean, I should have Chat GPT just do it because I feel like I'm a bot because I'm always just like, "Thank you for that. That was nice."
yeah. Pretty much. I don't take pictures of what I'm eating. I don't take pictures of the coffee I'm drinking. I don't document my life because, like you, it's not interesting to me. So I think, how could it be interesting to other people? Honestly,
Right.
if I do something that I think is interesting, then I'll post it.
Yep.
If I do something that I think is beneficial for um, my art and my business, then I'll post that. Um, Outside of that, I do post some personal stuff, not a lot, honestly.
Mm.
Um, I think because I didn't grow up with social media.
Right.
Like social media, it didn't come along until mid 2000s, and I was already 35 by that point. So it's like whatever, really.
Yeah. It's more of a chore for me. It's
Yeah,
like, okay, I know I have to do it, but I'm like,
yeah, pretty
so
much.
I'm not sure what this is in reference to, but tell us about your rings.
Oh, the rings, right, right,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
yeah.
See, I didn't see that. I was looking elsewhere.
Okay, so yeah, I like rings. I like silver jewelry, and I got this like thing here as well.
Nice.
Um, so the first one is a Harley Davidson ring
Hmm.
because I like bikes, but I at the moment don't have one. The second one is, I guess, kind of bikery. I got this one in San Diego
Yep.
when I was at the Comic Con SDCC 2008, I think. This one I got in Mexico on a beach. Uh, this one is a Thomas Sabo ring here. I just thought it was really cool. I got that one in England when I was in London.
Nice.
Um, and it's, I don't know. I bought them all separately in different times, and they all kind of just go together, those three. So
Yep.
I don't know.
That's when you realize you have a style after all.
Yeah, I guess I do. Kind of. Yeah.
Um, I want to say for social media, you should post pictures of castles in Slovakia because when will you run
That's a good
out?
point. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, okay. The next time, I'm at a castle or near a castle, I'll make sure to post something, and maybe I'll tag you, Mike.
Absolutely, love to see it. Um, this is when I win the lottery because that's going to happen. Um,
Of course.
I'm going to buy a castle somewhere in Europe and go move in.
I think you should. Absolutely. Totally.
Yeah.
Speaking of castles, I see you have an impressive collection of weapons on your wall there.
So that started the Gladius here. I was at a Comic-Con and the guy had all the weapons and he goes, "Hey, I'll trade you any sort of your choice for your 4 books in hardback." And I was like, so I walked there. I was like, "So how much you charge for the sword?" It's like 300. I'm like, "And you'll trade for my 4 hardbacks?" It's like, "Yeah." So I was like, "Done." I'm like, "Do you need another copy?" So So I got the sword, and then it's Damascus steel. You probably can't see from here, but I've watched Forged in Fire like 9 seasons now of blacksmiths coming in a competition to make weapons. So
Okay.
yeah, then I got the axe here because I like dwarves and axes, and then the kukri knife. I actually have 2 more coming Monday, and that's it because I won't have more space on my wall.
Nice.
So yeah, the thing that just the gladius that just I looked at the guy like he's nuts. He's like, oh yeah, I sharpen all of these. I'm like, you have all sharpened weapons at a Comic-Con? And he's like,
Wow.
yeah, I have this rapier here. I mean, see how light this is? You can whip it. I'm like, no, I will take someone's ear off. I'm setting this down now. But yeah, he sharpened always. And I'm like, I would just be fine if they were dull. I don't really think I'm going to have to use them ever. So, but yeah, they're all sharpened. I don't know why. That would not be my choice.
Wow. Yeah, I have to in the course of what I do, I'm collecting props for the paintings that I do to add more realism when I take the photographs for them, and I can see them and I can paint them more properly. And so for business reasons, I'm going to be buying. I want to get a sword, an axe, probably a shield, a dagger. I expect. I expect I'll probably get a couple of swords.
Yeah.
So yeah, I recently acquired a skull, which was well overdue, and I also recently acquired one of those. I can see in the background you have one of those cloaks on your dummy there. Yeah, I recently acquired one of those as well for business purposes.
Huh? Yes.
So.
Yeah. And I will John, because you asked. The globes are there because I've written 4 fantasy books, but my next book coming out is a sci-fi, and it takes place on Mars. So this one here is Mars, and then I have the moon, and then that's the Earth with the stars around it in the outer globe. So cool. That's what I'm writing. So that's what I have. But the next fantasy series, I have a female dwarf, and she's going to go to the dwarven goddess, forge god, and every book she's going to get a new weapon, and she's going to be like, what am I supposed to do with this? Give me a battle axe. And she's never going to get a battle axe. The first one is basically a shovel that's been sharpened to be used as a weapon.
Okay.
And then she'll be like, why? And then you'll find out during the book why she has it. And then it's going to be a 5-book series, and every book it's going to be a different weapon, and every time she's going to be like, just give me an axe.
It sounds pretty cool. What's the series called? Sorry.
I'm just writing it now. I've got like 6,000 words written, but the series is going to be Disciples of the Fallen God.
Okay.
And book 1 is called Death's Champion.
Death's Champion. That sounds epic.
So yeah, I'm thinking I may have to reach out to you because I think that your artwork is like right there.
Absolutely, that sounds awesome. Death's Champion. I'm thinking Death Dealer for Zeta right now. Probably not the same imagery, but those sorts of lines.
Ugh. And John, you are in rare form again. And like you, I'm indie all the way. And if someone offered me a traditional contract, I think I would turn them down because, like you, I like to have control. And I like to have on my covers, and everyone tells me it's wrong, you shouldn't do it, but I want a scene from my book on the cover. Yeah. Because if nothing else, I know what the scene is ahead of time, and then when I'm writing, I'm like, if I get this done, I can get to that scene, and I have the picture right there, so I don't have to imagine all in my head. I actually have the actual picture to look at, and and I mean, everyone's like, you don't do that, you don't put a scene for your book, you do, and I'm like, I don't care, I'm not going to be Stephen King, and I don't want to be, so I'm going to do what I want.
You can absolutely put a scene on the cover. I see nothing wrong with that at all. And I've worked with some authors, and I've been doing the cover at the same time that they've been finishing the book, and I put visuals into my paintings that they've included in the book in the final. So one thing feeds off another, and the other thing feeds off the other. And
Yeah.
I think, there's totally nothing wrong with that. I think that's a great thing.
So, and I'll tell you, the one thing I learned working with my artist from Poland is I think my first cover is like, okay, I want this guy standing on Stonehenge. I want this here. I want this in 18 different elements. And he's like, let me just do a drawing or two. And I was like, and then he gives me one. I was like, wow, that like shows motion. It's not like a police lineup where everyone's lined up. I'm like, that's so much better. And I've just learned I'm a chemist by training. So I'm like, give me every piece of data and, so I can see everything. And he's like, no. Let's do this. Let's simplify it. We'll show some action. And I'm like, okay, yeah, that's better.
Yeah, totally. I've worked with authors before that wanted to have, 20 characters on there, and each character has to be important. They all have to be doing their thing. Yeah, that's great, but that doesn't make for a great image per se. It's difficult for people to sort of like zone in one thing, and then it just becomes kind of a wall of noise per se.
Yeah.
So,
One piece of advice I got was for a cover, you need to make the image big enough that one, it looks good in a thumbnail.
Yep.
And two, you have to beckon the person in, so you can't put, and then in chapter 3, this happened. And in chapter 4, it's not like a picture representation of your book. That's a comic book or a graphic novel.
No, not at all. It's an iconic moment.
Yep.
That symbolizes what your book's about, or a scene per se that you simplified. It's got to look good, on an Amazon thumbnail, and it's also got to look good from across the bookstore. If you're seeing the front cover, it's got to grab people. You have less than a second to grab people, and if it's not engaging, people are just going to walk by because there's plenty of other things to look at.
Yep. And so if you put 16 things on it, they're all small and they don't see anything. It's just
it's going to look like wallpaper.
Yeah.
And people won't even notice it.
Yep.
And you got to choose a palette also that's appropriate and is gonna punch you in the face. It's gonna like, look at me. You want to open this book? I'm exciting. Come over here.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming the answer to this is yes, because artists. Do you have imposter syndrome? And if so, what does one do to face it down when you're an artist as opposed to an author?
Yes, I do. I've had imposter syndrome, of course. Everyone has.
Yep.
There's times where you don't think your work is good enough. You look at your peers and the people that you admire, and you're like, there's just no way I'm ever going to reach that pinnacle, that mountain. I'm at the bottom. I can't even see the top.
Yep.
Why am I even bothering? But the thing that always grounds me is that I know that every one of those people had to start somewhere.
Yep.
And everyone had to go through the same similar stuff. There are no shortcuts. As Schwarzenegger said, there's no shortcuts. It's all reps, reps, reps. And that's basically what it is. You just have to go through the hard yards and have faith that in the end, you're going to get there. But in answer to your question, yeah, I have had imposter syndrome. I still have it from time to time.
Yep.
And, when it hits, I just, walk away for a few hours, do something I enjoy, take my mind off it, look at some art that inspires me to get back on the horse, and then, we're back at it. So I don't know. How do you handle you've had imposter syndrome, I'm guessing?
Oh, all the time. Like you, I have had where I was like, you know what, I'm just going to stop. I'm going to play a computer game. Just take my mind, walk away. I found for me, if I just go for a walk, because normally if I'm blocked and I can't write and I don't know why, if I just go walking, then whatever it is that's bothering me, because, I'm a guy, I don't do feelings. So if I just start walking after, about 5-10 minutes, all of a sudden, whatever it is that's in the back of my head that just doesn't want to present itself as this is the problem to solve, will just come out, and I'll just, by the time I'm like, okay, you know what, that's what's eating me up. Fine, I can do this. Fine. And then, like, okay, solve that problem. So I always go like, I'm going to figure out what's going to happen in chapter 12. And then I go for my walk, and God only knows what comes up, but it's never chapter 12. But then you're like, okay, well, now I'll do this, and then I'm on the path to solving the problem. And then once I stopped for 2 weeks, I couldn't write a chapter. I just couldn't. I'm like, I know what has to happen, and it was my main character is going into a Centaur City. And I finally was like, well, what does a Centaur City even look like? I'm like, oh my God, this is why I can't write, because I have no setting. I'm like, okay. So I finally just stopped and I was like, well, let's go back. So I looked at what the Greek said about centaurs and said, okay, we'll do it after the Mongol people who are nomadic, because they're going to be, I just started from there and I built the city up and I was like, oh, this is one. I'm like, and then once I had it, it's one of my favorite scenes, because I was like, I looked like, what do centaur cities look like on Google, and nothing comes up, absolutely nothing. So I was like, okay, well then I have to do this, because no one else has that I can, get inspiration from. So
absolutely.
but
Sometimes,
yeah,
sometimes as an artist, you'll start. Nice. Yeah, exactly. For myself, I'll go walks really help. Going to the gym, lift some weights, meditating, just doing anything other than working on the
yeah,
art.
just
And
don't force
also,
it.
yeah, you don't force it. And the other thing is that sometimes I'll be overwhelmed by a piece, or I'll totally tighten up on the final illustration. I just have to remind myself that this is a sketch. Just have fun with it. You're gonna have fun. It's not rocket science. Nobody's gonna die. Enjoy
Yeah.
yourself and just let the process happen. Yeah.
Okay, so I have a question that I came up with last night. It's like, I need to have this answered. So you're
I'm gonna
being
take a drink
commissioned.
then.
You're being commissioned for a piece, and they said, okay, I want gladiatorial combat, but I want two mythical creatures to face off from one another. You have to choose those creatures. What are they?
Oh God. Well, the first thing that comes to mind is a Minotaur,
Yep.
I guess. Um, who the other mythical character be? I have no idea. Um, I'm running out of juice here. Help me out. Help me
So
out.
I'll tell you the reason for this question is, you did you see the Sinbad movies that came out in the
Yeah.
70s?
Yeah. Yeah.
I always
That's
go, I
exactly what
love,
I thought of.
yeah,
I was
because
thinking the skeletons, maybe.
I always see the centaur versus the griffin is the epitome of good versus evil.
Right.
And I'm always like, yeah, that. So I was like, if anyone asks me, I have a ready answer, and I won't tell them it's coming from the Sinbad movie, because they
Right.
usually probably be too young and not know it exists.
As soon as you said that, I was like, well, what about the Hydra? The many-headed snake thing. I don't know. Yeah, I love those movies. They were awesome.
Okay. Let's see. Oh,
Silly
the other
question. Silly question incoming.
silly question. I've had this on my list for authors, and it's just never come up, because I normally roll the die to see which silly question. But
Okay.
what city do you live in?
I live near Košice in the east of Slovakia.
And is there a main road there?
The main road. Not that I can think of.
Okay, well, a busy road in the city that I can't pronounce. You have your choice. You can either ride a T-Rex or a Griffin down the center of that street. Which one do you choose?
Well, I think it's going to be the T-Rex, honestly. Yeah, that's going to do the most damage.
Fair. Let's see. So how about some serious questions?
Okay.
How do you handle criticism or feedback on your artwork? Does it bother you? Do you just shrug it off?
When I was younger, I would take everything super personally, and you know, because I was super insecure about my work.
Yeah.
There was a lot of holes in the stuff that I was doing. There still is. Now, when I get criticism, I'll take the emotion out of it, and I'll see what's useful, as opposed to someone's biased or their natural opinion is something that they naturally prefer, as it were.
Right.
So if you give me criticism, or I prefer feedback.
Yep.
If you give me feedback my work, and I can see where there's value and where it can be improved, I'm all for it. I'm happy to take that on board and start, putting that into my work. So that's how I see criticism or feedback. Yeah.
Or there's EL's method.
Yeah, that was me probably when I was much younger. Yeah, absolutely.
And EL also, when I asked Ro, he's like, Griffins, who would ever, I mean, T-Rexes are cool and all, but, Griffins fly. But I'm with you. I'd do T-Rex in a heartbeat.
Fair enough.
Let's see. Do you ever collaborate with other artists?
I haven't done that yet. I'd love to do that. Collaborate and come up with a piece that we both worked on, or maybe we each had the same description and brief to go off, and we went away and came up with different things for the same thing, as it were. I mean, I think that would be great. So yeah, I'm totally up for that, but I haven't done it yet.
That's something I've always, when I'm independently wealthy because I've won the lottery and I'm living in my castle.
Yeah, and I'm your next door neighbor. Yeah.
Yeah. Uh-huh. I always, like, for authors, I want to say, okay, here's the writing prompt. Everyone write your short story or whatever, because I've had 3 or 4 times now, people have come up to me at Comic-Cons like, oh, I have an idea for a great book. How do I get it published? And I'm like, well, there's a lot of work, a lot of, writing and rewriting and, editing and whatnot. It's like, well, what's your story even about? Oh, I can't tell you. I don't want anyone to steal this idea. And I'm like, listen, my life experiences are so much different from yours. If we both take the same story prompt and try to write the same story, other than the names being the same and maybe the location, everything else will be different. Only you can tell the story. In your case, only you can draw that painting. No one else can do that because you're putting a little bit of you into everything you do. And I've had that 3 and 4 times. I'm like, I can't help you if you're not going to share anything. There is no magic, awesome button, like you said, just press. So I would love to be able to do that where it's like, okay, here's the prompt, whether it's, artist, here's a prompt for, there's a demon sitting in his chair and it's titled, seeing the boss, or, go, or, here's a story prompt, everyone write a short story, and then just see how different they are. You can't steal someone else's idea, which is why AI, I mean, art's a little different because it does kind of steal from artists, but I mean, if you have an AI write a story, good luck to you.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of that.
Yeah,
honestly.
Yeah, I met a guy who he writes erotica, and he's like, oh no, I do AI, and I'm like, okay, well that's writing that you can probably get away with, because no one's reading that for the pros.
No, I expect not.
But I mean, and then I showed him my cover. He's like, well, here, look at this. And he's like, I just put this prompt in and I got this in, 3 minutes. I'm like, well, yeah, you did. And since you haven't read my book, you don't know why I did the picture that I wanted on my cover. And he's like, well, this is the same thing. I'm like, it is not.
No, it is not. It is not.
I'm like, and it's average is probably being kind.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. If you want specificity on your cover work, then AI is not the answer. It really isn't. AI is one of those things that it's the Pandora's out of the box now. It's out of Pandora's box now. You can't put it. The genie's come out of the bottle. We can't put it back in there now.
Right.
And so everyone has to deal with it. All creatives have to deal with it now.
Yeah.
I personally see AI, once all the legal wrangles have been worked out and the companies are compensating the artists for their time and for their effort, and say there's a stable of artists that have agreed to put into the AI thing, and they're getting money back from that. That's great. That's basically what I see as a great model for that. I also see AI from that, once that's been done, it's a great idea generator.
Yeah.
It's good for concepts, for coming out with quick concepts. But that's all. That's pretty much all I think it's good for.
Yeah, that actually for me, my book I used AI. I went to ChatGPT and I said, what am I going to find in a medieval coastal town? Because I mean, I can look this up and take, hours, and it just, spit out a list. I'm like, okay, well, what professions would be, and I generate like a list of 30 things. I'm like, okay, now I know what's in my town, and I can pick and choose. And, I did go down a deep dive on rope makers, because for some reason that just caught me as being, I was like, never thought about that in my life. And apparently the rope houses were like, 300 yards long and 20 yards wide. And that's all because they had to lay out all the fibers. And I'm just, I did a really deep dive. And then I had my character go there and I'm like, and a paragraph later, the rope house is done. And I spent, 10 hours reading about this, and it ends up being in one paragraph, and then the story moves on. But
yeah. But
I mean,
it's good to have that background. It's good to have, that underlying current of information.
Yep. And I mean, ChatGPT was good for, what's in this medieval city, because I can't look at medieval cities where I'm at. So, I mean, in Europe, you can probably find some, but still, but exactly. So I mean, it's a tool, and it's not going to be much more than a tool. Like you said, idea generation is good.
I just don't think it's I don't think it's the answer for finished illustrative work. And certainly not a replacement for a targeted or a focused illustration that only a real artist can create.
Right.
Because you still have to, even if you use these tools, you still have to have an eye. You still have to know what you're looking for. You still have to be able to create something that's engaging.
Yep, like I said with my artist, then I give him the police lineup, and he's like, "No, let's go from this angle, and we'll have the light over here, and you'll show action." And I'm like, "Oh my god, this is 1,000." I'm like, "This is why I pay professionals."
Yeah, you get what you pay for.
Yeah,
it's as simple as that. Who is your artist, if you don't mind me asking?
Dmitry Yagowski. He's Belarusian, but then he married a Dutch wife, and they live in Poland. And he has a daughter, and I don't know what that makes his daughter, other than European.
Okay, I'll have to look him up, see what his work's like.
He's found his niche. I think he's doing a lot of Lord of the Rings type artwork. And he's actually said he's featured more times than not now on Nerd of the Rings. When they come out with a new episode, they'll have some of his artwork there.
Very cool.
He's big on I'm not the biggest fan of it, but I mean, everybody has things. He has one like Gandalf is on the Eagle and he's landing on an aircraft carrier, and they have the guys from the aircraft carrier like with the little white walk, or he has the two giant statues in New York City in one of the main roads, and then they're with their hands out.
Yeah.
And he mixes modern world with Lord of the Rings, which I'm not thrilled with that idea, but I mean they're nice paintings, but I don't like mixing my fantasy with reality. So
right, so he does interesting mashups.
Yeah. Well, David, this is true.
Absolutely.
So, is there something that I should have asked you that I have not? I always put that in.
Let's see. Ooh. Just trying to find something that's silly that we can end on, maybe.
Well, are there any artists who have influenced your work? Let me ask you that, a serious question.
Yeah. Boris Vallejo, when I was much younger. Mm-hmm. Frank Frazetta, of course. Simon Beasley. I don't know if you're aware of who Simon Beasley is.
No, but that's okay. There's people who will.
When I was a teenager in the UK, there's this comic called 2000 AD in there. And have you seen the movie Judge Dredd?
I have not. I'm terrible at watching movies.
Okay. Well, that's one of the main characters from that particular comic, as well as Slain. And Slain is a Celtic warrior. And Simon Beasley did the whole painted sequential art for that, as well as a few other characters, and then moved on to the American comic scene. But yeah, his stuff is actually fairly Frazetta based as well. So those are the ones I can think of off the top of my head. Greg Manchess is a fantastic artist. Brom, I don't know if you're aware of who Brom is. He does a lot of sort of macabre, foreboding art.
I love that art style.
Yeah, he's done, Magic the Gathering stuff. He's done his own line of stuff. Fantastic artist. So there's some of the artists that I like.
Okay, here's a silly question to end on. Hold on. Someone knows what you're talking about.
Brom is cool. Yes, yeah.
So aliens land on Earth. And they can't speak the language very well, so they just show pictures of your artwork, and they say, take us to blank Simon Carr. What is the honorific that they put in front of your name? Is it Emperor? Is it Court Jester? What is the title that you're given from these aliens that love your work so much?
How do I even answer that?
I had a couple last night before I made these questions up.
I don't know. Maybe Court Jester. There we go.
Okay. So Simon, where can people find you?
I'm on, my website's down the bottom, as you can see.
We have your contacts in the description, but your website is the best place to see your work quickly.
The website's the best place to see my work, really. I have a YouTube channel as well. It's at Scar Artist, where I break down some of the covers that I've done. And art critics are connoisseurs.
I guess for the aliens. Yeah.
Aliens. Maybe they are alien connoisseurs. And I'm on Facebook and Instagram. It's all /Scar Artist. So if you just type in Scar Artist, you'll find me there. So yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you so much. Definitely be checking out your artwork. I'm really a big fan. I started looking at it beforehand. I was like, now I'm excited to talk to you. So
thank you. Thanks for the opportunity, Mike. I really appreciate it.
Oh, no problem. Thank you for coming on. So now we've come to the part where we all wave awkwardly until it decides to cut off the video. So bye, everyone. Thanks for being here. We're still waving.